Project Gutenberg is a documentary about the nearly 5-decade-long effort to create the world's first and biggest digital library. No, it isn't. Hi, welcome to the Silver Spleen. My name is Michael S. Hart, and this is my review of Project Gutenberg. Felix Chong has written some iconic Hong Kong movies like the Infernal Affairs trilogy. Watch it. I have. I've also watched Ocean's 11 and Fight Club. And believe me, so is Felix Chong. Spoiler alert! Felix Chong has definitely watched The Usual Suspects. There, I just saved you 131 minutes. Now, I'm going to spend the rest of this review dumping on this movie. So if you don't want to hear that either, go away. You know, I'd say that Felix could sue me, but I imagine he's a little busy these days with Christopher McQuarrie's lawyers. Or he should be. But speaking of reveals and letdowns, this movie was produced by Emperor Motion Pictures and Alibaba Pictures. But I sat through it anyway, because I only paid 50 Hong Kong dollars since I saw it at 8:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So I guess I got my money's worth. I mean, after all, Aaron Kwok starts crying in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Because let's face it, acting awards don't win themselves. Or maybe, like me, he was weeping because the story was already garbage by then. I'm not really sure. Now, I am sure that they spent money on makeup in this movie because it's very visible on the dudes. They also spent money on the dubbing. I just wish that they'd picked a single language and, stuck with it. Two people speak Mandarin to each other, and then one of them speaks Cantonese, but the second one answers in Mandarin, but then they both speak English even though there's no Guaylo around. And then sometimes the Guaylo understand Chinese, sometimes they don't. But they are mean to Chinese people all the time. Hey, chain-smoking security guards in third-tier cities, they have feelings too. Honestly, I don't really have a problem with people speaking English as a second language. I don't laugh at that. I don't think it's funny. I don't take that from it at all. But I don't enjoy a native speaker talking like this because he is not an actor. I also wish somebody could explain to me why two Chinese people in Vancouver in 1985 were speaking Mandarin, especially when one of them is Aaron Kwok. I didn't really have to wonder why it was 1985 and then it was 1995 because, this movie's playing in China. That's not a spoiler. Those are the rules. Almost all the crime in this movie is conveniently pre-handover. The present crime is accounted for with a conveniently China-friendly ending. To be honest, the ending is friendly everywhere because it means that this abomination is over, but that's not my point. Another film rule, at least in some places, is that the meretricious use of special effects, even good ones unlike in this movie, is no substitute for an actual narrative. You can highlight all the cool, interesting details you want, but details are supposed to give shape to narrative substance. They can't replace it. Neither can the seemingly requisite pseudo-scientific babble that passes for evidence of intelligence in a lot of local films. They say the devil is in the details, and frankly speaking, that would make Felix Chong a very pious man. Project Gutenberg displays a lot of attention to detail, but it still gets every single one of them wrong. Now, a lot of wrong details in this movie could, I suppose, be excused by the central conceit of the film. Some of them can't. When you hold a gun to someone's head and say that you're going to kill them, we might take you more seriously if your finger was actually on the trigger and not pointing straight up. That guy grabbing the pistol grip of a shouldered weapon backwards while the weapon's pointing straight up in the air, was that supposed to seem menacing? Because unless he grows a thumb out of the heel of his hand, everybody was still safe, except maybe birds. And to be fair, that kind of dumbness had a lot of company. Nothing says I'm sorry like low-grade sexual assault. Well, that and being thoughtful enough not to kiss a woman during sex so that she still has her lipstick perfectly applied post-coitus. What's the difference between Chow Yun-fat's goofy, vaguely racist disguise and speech mannerisms and that of Mickey Rooney as Mr. Yunioshi? Well, about 50 years. Other than that, they're essentially interchangeable. I was really impressed by a mechanical trigger for explosives that politely and conveniently waits for the bad guy to deliver one last important line of dialogue before the explosives explode. Oh, I forgot. It's all bullshit anyway, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm sure that Canada subcontracts a lot of government labor. You know, like guys driving an armored car full of currency ink through what appears to be the middle of Canadian nowhere, aka east of Vancouver. And I'm sure that, you know, people who drive an armored car for a living will naturally stop at what must be a simple farm accident and not a setup for an ambush. You know, it's not like they're carrying anything important in the truck that they need to guard with the guns that they're carrying. Besides, I guess Canadian currency ink is in big demand in rural Canada because, I don't know. I guess it's no problem to set off an explosion strong enough to destroy an armored car when you're only standing 20 feet away from it. It doesn't even knock you down. Of course it wouldn't. You're a movie star. We're running out of time. Let's keep going. As opposed to what? Sitting down? Quitting? Why would anybody say that? I'll say this. CG blood sucks. So does a criminal too dumb to know what an empty automatic pistol looks like and therefore not be afraid of it. The CG Zodiac boats sucked. Not as much as the movie's still not ending, but you know what I mean. Don't you think that master criminals would know about that second way to get ink before they resorted to the first method? Felix doesn't. Speaking of doesn't, don't ask me how I know this, but the Mexican drug cartels don't need fake money. They're awash in real cash. They need financial detergent. And, you know, also, I'm sure there is some cocaine in Cuba, but it's not a drug trafficking hub. Just because all the people in that region are brown doesn't mean that them and their countries are all interchangeable. Thought you'd want to know. And of course, you know, don't worry. They never do anything bad in China because there's no crime in China. Or in Hong Kong because the Special Duties Unit was somehow instantly prepared and all suited up and they had their weapons and everything and they were already moving through the police station no more than 10 seconds after that tireless cop noticed something was funny. Now, in real life, it took local cops 3 hours to mobilize a response to a protest that took place in front of a police station. From what I've read. But let me take a moment and talk about what I liked in this movie. Seriously, it'll just take a moment. I don't know Felix Chong, but he knows me. He must. I mean, being, you know, blindfolded and hogtied in bed with Zhang Jingchu is actually on my bucket list. I don't know how he knew that, but thank you. Thanks, too, to Carl who was actually the victim/lucky man in that particular scene, scenario, fantasy, whatever. He was a lot of fun to watch, and even when he wasn't in the... You know what I mean. And, you know, as bad as the rest of this movie is, at one point, we do get to see Chow Yun-fat in a white suit with 2 pistols. All is forgiven, right? Well, yeah, it is until shortly thereafter, when it's snatched away from you as part of the reveal/do-over. Ugh. Oh, and you know, we got the reveal. You really didn't have to spend 20 minutes to redo all the major plot points in the movie. Again, let's face it, I didn't enjoy this movie, but that's probably because I've seen Ocean's 11 and Fight Club and The Usual Suspects, you know. So, if you haven't seen those, you might really enjoy this movie. Young people, especially young Chinese people, might not have seen those films and they'll think, wow, this is really something. And it is something, it's just not something new. But I can't really say it's a good film. It's a good copy, maybe. Do me a favor. Click on my Patreon page because for $1 a month, I could have clean water and toothpaste and maybe even do something about all the cockroaches that live in the squalid little hut on the side of a hill where I live in Hong Kong because I have no job and no life. In fact, I'm in a public library right now. That's where I film these things. Seriously, please just click on it, would ya? If you enjoyed my review, please let me know. If you didn't enjoy it, let me know. If you know Aaron Kwok, tell him about this review because I'm tired of watching him cry in movies. But in real life, I could do with it. If you enjoyed the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.